I always want to encourage people, you're never going to know everything, but you can know more. And God is infinite. We're never going to get to the end of that. That's what eternity is for. So we won't get bored. So, but this is important stuff to learn and learn from each other and all the rest. So the Ethiopian eunuch went home with a little bit more knowledge, a little bit more faith, and then actually got baptized as it sort of says. And he didn't have to go to the RCIA for 2 years. Right on the road, found a puddle of water. So, yeah, so, okay. Let's go.
Okay, so session number 3. So the first session, we gave the introduction and presented the ideas. The second one, we actually read the text itself and explained it. In this session, we will look at the references to the 3 opinions and where they come from. So the 3 opinions, right? Either that the servant is Israel, the people of Israel. The second one is that it's a Messiah, a future Messiah, whether Jewish, Christian. And the third one that is a specific person. So let's start with the references to the servant that we agree on that it could be the one person, the future Messiah. And I'm going to read the reference from the Talmud, the oral tradition that the rabbis discussed for many, many years. And it's in the tractate, in the book of Sanhedrin, the court. So it was always in the context, a lot of references to messianic references appear in that book, in that section tractate of Sanhedrin, because a Messiah from our sources is also a king, and the king has of course, the authority. So it's always in that context. So it's a conversation about something else. The Talmud is very like what we've done here, a lot of segues.
Yeah.
So it's a stream of consciousness. So they were talking about something else. I won't labor you with it. And then they talked about the Messiah within that conversation. So they said, since we're talking about the Messiah, let's ask a question about the Messiah. So the question is what is the world is created for? So they're asking. There's a conversation between Rav, he's a figure in the Talmud, and Shmuel, Rav and Shmuel. These are there's a period that we go through in the oral tradition. It's called the couples, the zugot, that their famous conversation between these 2 rabbis. So Rav and Shmuel are one of those, and they're famous for their conversations. One of the conversation is the world. So Rav says, the world was created only for the sake of David. Okay, and then by virtue of his merit. So they're saying God created this whole world to have David and King David in this world. Okay, and Shmuel says it was created by virtue of the merit of Moses. Okay, so just to have a Moses in this world, and they each have their own characters. Moses was the most humble person in the world that ever lived. That's what God said in Exodus. Then we have then Rabbi Yonatan said, he said it was created by virtue of the merit of the Messiah. Yeah, so they're talking about like what is this world is all about? Like why we even create this whole world? And these are old interpretations and a commentary that God created this whole world for the sake of redemption, creation for the sake of redemption. There's nothing that God created in this world, and there's really nothing in this world that exists for itself. Think of anything in any item, anything in this world. If you think that whatever you're thinking about is created for itself, sorry to tell you, it's idol worshiping. It's always for the sake of something. And eventually it's for the ultimate redemption, but there's always redemption. So, for example, your iPhone. So if you look at the iPhone and you worship your iPhone, it's idol worshiping. But if you love your iPhone because it gets you to connect with your family, with your friends, and you can, look up recipes. I don't know, so you can feed your family. That is the redemption of the phone, right? So, and then of course, these are steps, redemptive steps, but there's an ultimate redemption. So in the book of Genesis, the first verse of Genesis it says God created the heaven and earth, right? The first commentary of the same person that we were talking about, Rashi, the main kind of the commentator on the Torah, the Talmud, he said it's for the word Bereshit, the word in the beginning in Hebrew, which is one word in Hebrew, the three words in English, in the beginning, it's one word in Hebrew, Bereshit, in the beginning, and it's interpreted as and for the sake of beginning. And the beginning, for the sake of beginning, the beginning is Israel. Because it's God said to Pharaoh, it's my firstborn. It's the beginning. So even though it didn't come into this world first, because Egypt was already there, we know that Abram and Sarah went down to Egypt. So Egypt is a more ancient society, but it's still the firstborn of God. It's the beginning. It's the redemptive. So he created this whole world to bring Israel into this world, a nation that will follow God, that will have this relationship. So, and the ultimate of Israel is the Messiah, right? And messianic times and redemptive times. So this is what they're talking about. You have to understand all these steps, but this is what we're talking about. Now, you can probably what is like in Sesame Street? It has what is not
Like the others,
what is not
one of these things.
one of these things
Yeah.
is not like the others. So we have three names that they're referring to, right? They're saying David, they're saying Moses, and Messiah. So which one of the three is not like the others? Wait, who says I heard Moses? Okay, and I heard Messiah. Who says Messiah? Okay, who says Moses? Okay, you're right. Everybody's wrong. Right, because King David and Messiah, the Messiah from the house of David. So it really is actually they're closer. Moses is the other, but Moses in this context is a messianic figure. So they're really all are talking about Messiah. That's the point. And you'll see in the when they continue the conversation, it's really bottom line, they're all talking about Messiah in different ways. So because David is a real figure and he's a political figure, because when you say David, you say King David, who really had a kingdom and he built the house of God. He didn't build the house of God, but he was responsible for the house of God and so forth. Saying Messiah in general is a much, could be a more spiritual aspect of it. But Moses actually is a reincarnation of the Messiah. That's what he said. Or the Messiah is a reincarnation of Moses. It says it in different sources. We believe in reincarnation. Yeah, absolutely. that the soul of so and so goes
Spirit
into
or whatever.
goes into we don't we don't live one the worst thing that the Western world was sold to, the idea of one life to live. And that show, I don't know whoever, if you saw that show, I mean, I never saw the show, but I mean, it could be have a nice, it would be a nice show. But the title of the show is so wrong, so wrong. One life to live. It's the worst idea you can sell, because it means that you can just do whatever you want in this world, and there are no consequences.
You go to hell.
Well, but it's we don't live once. That's not what we believe. We can talk about another time, but the soul is infinite and it can return in different ways. And okay, but the we call it Gilgul. Gilgul is literally a cycle. Like we are recycled. And if you think about it, everything in this world recycles. Everything, right? In nature, everything recycles. It dies and it recycles. Why wouldn't we be recycled? Maybe eventually, when you finish the recycling.
This is one thing I totally disagree. And, Catholic, we would know if that happens or not, but we don't believe that. So,
Yeah.
or know that. Yeah. We don't, some now, two Jews, three opinions. So there's going to be different variances on the Jewish side too, as well, about this idea of reincarnation. But I've heard it a few times and I hear other things too. So, all right.
The idea is that we have to correct. So we're imperfect and we don't always graduate. So some people, like the way to explain, for example, death of babies, which is the hardest thing to wrap our minds around, is that they only came in their last reincarnation to fix this little thing, and now they're done. So we believe that eventually the souls do complete their cycles in this world, but until they correct, they come back. They do come back in different ways. So what? Yeah, but it's not just Kabbalah. It's in the Talmud. It's a very prevalent idea. That's not the people who don't believe. The Jews that don't believe in it are very minuscule minority. It's not a. It's a very. That's a traditional way of believing that the soul, the body, is like our dress. You can today you can wear this, tomorrow you can wear something else, but the soul is infinite. The soul is the essence of life, is the breath of God that never dies.
Right.
So where does it go? I know, but it's still around. It could still wear different clothing and still come back to do. But unless you want to continue the conversation.
Uh-huh.
Is that the soul, like we make what would those prayers be?
So the soul is like the breath, right? So we compare it to the candle, and a candle can give off infinitely, right? And it does not diminish. So if you die as I don't know, Susan, I didn't reference any specific Susan. I hope there are no Susans here, but it doesn't mean that the same Susan is coming back. That doesn't mean that. It means that the part of the soul that still needs to be corrected with a body comes back. So part of it. So it's not the same person, but it's the same soul, part of the soul that is infinite anyway. So even if it's, half of the soul, it's still that soul. So it's different people, but it's the same spirit, the same breath. So
Is that simplicity with the Hindus believe?
it's not the same like the Hindus, because the Hindus believe that it's the same person that comes back. And the Druze believe that too. It's not exactly the same, but I don't want to take all the time to talk about that. But we do believe in a coming back of the soul.
But it would be not
So
like you come back as a frog or something like that.
you don't come back as the same person,
Yeah.
but your soul, the breath that was in your other body, can still come back and correct the part that has still stain on it from your previous life to correct it.
That's like, that's where we,
Yeah.
you know, with the covering of Christ, his atonement for our sins, we spend time in purgatory if we have not lived the life of the saints.
Yeah.
But we would not come back.
I understand. Yeah. So purgatory and coming back to this world has the same effect though, because God is not going to let impure soul come back to his house, right? It's like your mother said, you have to clean your shoes before you, right? Before you come into the house. So he's not going to bring any impurity, right? And even in the temple on earth, we couldn't bring impurity, right? You had to be pure to serve in the temple on earth, let alone the temple in heaven. So, okay. The what? I think the next discussion should be, where is Tony? I think there's an interest here. I think you have the next retreat already.
I ain't coming. I'm not going. I'm not getting into that.
Oh, you only come if there's an agreement? The what?
We like the things that go together.
Well, it seems like there's an interest of, what was your question? You had a question?
Yeah, if all Jewish believe that's the reincarnation.
Yeah, most. I would say it's the traditional belief. Those who don't believe, it's just because they don't believe. Or they have a different belief, but the traditional core belief of Judaism is that absolutely, because we have resurrection, we believe in resurrection, the Yata Metim, the rise of the dead. So of course we come back. So the idea of coming back is not a foreign idea. So that shouldn't actually be outrageous at all.
Didn't believe in Jesus.
The Sadducees didn't believe. Yeah. The Sadducees did.
Afterlife.
The Sadducees were like a very small section of the priesthood, and we'll actually get to them. We'll get that. Jeremiah was one of those people. He was from the priests that were rejected by King David. And so that's why he was a very simple man. We're going on many tangents here. I really want to get to that. Yes. Yeah.
Just say to the group, not to yourself, but to the group, that the rabbi is here to teach us what his beliefs are. He's not there to impose anything on us, only there for us what they believe. And of course, we do have different beliefs, but I think we just need to listen and let him speak to us about what his tradition is. And then if, like we do in any kind of program today, it's like what you like and leave the rest. And we are Catholic Christians and we do believe differently. And I have to say that in defense of Rabbi Gadi, because I feel that I wouldn't want him to feel the world. We're not as good.
Are you kidding? I was in the military. You're not hostile. Don't worry about it. No worries. So anyway, so they're talking about also Moses is coming back. And just before we started this half an hour tangent, I was going to say that the word Moses, actually, you're sitting, right? The word Moses in Hebrew has 3 letters, and it spells out from lamb. Okay? From lamb. Moshe, from lamb. So he's definitely in this, category. Definitely here. So, okay. Yeah.
That's the other one I was going to, did I tell the story about, about him? Can't get off on too many other sites. He came from Israel, of course, and so he finally wanted to make a Catholic pilgrimage. He said, I want to see all the spots that I don't know about. So we went, joined the group. He was by himself, no other Jews. And we had a good pilgrimage. We got to the Transfiguration. Now you're talking Incarnation Trinity. Bang, big bang. So I said, well, how'd you do with that, And he said, I was so touched that Moses made it. So Moses made it to the promised land, but we're in Israel now. And Moses and Elijah appear with Jesus, therefore he made it to the Holy Land, to the promised land. I would never have even thought about that. So it's really beautiful. It was a beautiful insight, like Moses made it.
So, okay, so then they continue their conversation. So the whole world is for the Messiah, for this redemption, the redemptive moment. And then they get into a different question. Let's see what is the tangent now going to be? And this is in the Talmud, right? And this is the reference that believes also, like the Christian faith, that it's talking about the future Messiah, the King Messiah. So it says, what is his name? What would be the Messiah's name? And the school of one rabbi, Selah, said Shiloh is his name. Shiloh. Shiloh is one, because it says, until when Shiloh shall come in Genesis. The school of Rabbi Yanai says Yinon. Again, if they go by their own names, if you made the connection, because Yinon means to sustain, to be there. In his name, as it will be his name, as it is stated, may his name endure forever. So endure forever in Hebrew is Yinon. And there are people in Israel called Yinon. That's the first name. And then may his name continue as long as the sun. And may men be blessed by him. That's Psalm 72. And then the school of Rabbi Hanina says Hanina is his name. Hanina means pardon. Like Fauci.
Not a direct correlation.
Well, I will show you no favor. I'm just gonna pardon in Jeremiah, and some say that Menachem is the comforter, because the comforter Menachem that should relieve my soul as far from me in Lamentation, and the rabbis say the rabbis, I guess the body of rabbis, because these were singular scholars, but the rabbis in general said it's referring to the leper of the house of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi in his name. So Rabbi Judah the Prince was the one who actually started the whole Talmud. He compiled the whole Talmud, whatever was in oral. But the reference here is that he is from the house of David. He showed the direct connection to the house of David, which means that the leper that we're talking about, somebody who doesn't look good, he's diseased, marred, that we don't pay attention to, that is the Messiah. And he said, as it is stated, and this is the reference from Isaiah 53:4, it says, indeed our illness and indeed our illness he did bear, and our pains he endured. Yet we did esteem him injured, stricken by God, and afflicted. Okay, so that's in the Talmud. This is the reference to Isaiah 53 that matches with the Christian belief that we're talking about the Messiah from the house of David. Okay, do you want to say something now? No, no tangent, no tangent, no tangent. Okay, okay,
Yeah, no, keep going though.
okay. The Christian interpretation has references in the New Testament. I'll bring those references. Actually, you know what? I want to end on that. So what I'm going to do is I'm first going to show the references that support the second now opinion, that it's the house of Israel, the assembly of Israel, and in Isaiah itself. It says Isaiah 50, it starts with really 52:13, when it says, my servant shall prosper, he shall be exalted and lifted up, seen as referring, sorry, no, these are the Christians, sorry. Did I delete the Jewish references? No. Sorry. Oh, here it is. Okay. Actually, Isaiah 41, it says, you, Israel, are my servant, Jacob, whom I chose. Isaiah 43, it says, you are my witness, declared the Lord, and my servant, whom I have chosen, so you may know and believe me. Isaiah 44, yet hear now, O Jacob, my servant, and Israel, whom I chose. Another from 44, remember these, O Jacob and Israel, for thou art my servant. I have formed thee. Thou art my servant, O Israel. Isaiah 45, for the sake of my servant Jacob and Israel, my chosen one. 48, the Lord has redeemed his servant Jacob. And then 49, it says, and said unto me, thou art my servant, O Israel, in whom I will be glorified. So you see why the main opinion here of commentators have been to say that it was the house of Israel because of all those references and context before. And then the third reference of for the Christian interpretation from the New Testament, and you'll comment on each one. Isaiah 52:13 says, my servant shall prosper, he shall be exalted and lifted up. And that's seen as referring to Jesus' resurrection and exaltation, so being
Well, the
lifted up.
exaltation of the cross, lifted up on
Yeah.
the cross too. Yeah.
Yeah. Isaiah 53:3 says, despised and rejected by men. Okay, self-explanatory. And understood as Jesus' rejection by many of his contemporaries. Isaiah 53:5, he was pierced for our transgression, used as describing the crucifixion. Verse 7, like a lamb led to the slaughter. And that's connected to Jesus' silence before the Roman governor Pontius Pilate. Isaiah 53:9, he made his grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death, linked to Jesus' burial in the tomb of Joseph Arimathea. And 53, 11, 12, he bore the sin of many, interpreted as Jesus' anointing death for humanity's atoning death for humanity's sins. The references from the New Testament are in the Acts, Romans, and Peter. And it says in Matthew's, it quotes Isaiah 53:4. It said, he took up our infirmities and carried our diseases. Okay. I guess you're all familiar with
Yeah, with all this.
Okay. John 12:38 quotes Isaiah 53:1, Lord who has believed our message. You talk about that one? Yeah, it's that's what
Oh, it's like the story is a big story. Who would believe our message? And that's the beginning of 53 verse 1. Who could believe what we have heard, what we have seen?
so what is so unbelievable? What
Death
aspect
and
of
resurrection.
this, the death of and the resurrection?
Yeah, that he took the sins, that then again, right from the start in Acts, so it's maybe in the 40s, 30, Jesus's death and resurrection, 33. So within 10 years somewhere, whatever it might be, the Ethiopian eunuch story happens. And so he's explaining, he's reading, doesn't understand, and Philip comes up and says, let me point out, this is Jesus, this is, what happened to Jesus. So he gets it, and then he is baptized. Right? So again, he has to respond. He doesn't say, oh, I heard the story now, good news, I'm saved. I'm done already, I had to get baptized, you have to do an action. So to make that a real, a sacrament. Yeah, sacrament is spiritual and material, like I explained before. It's our participation in God's grace. We receive it. So we do something. We do not do nothing. We do something. But I love that double negative. In terms of our salvation, we do not do nothing. We do something, but what is that? And they don't clarify. It's as far as they can go, because they don't want to get into the idea of our cooperation. And it's all on God's grace. It's not nothing to do with me. So I just claim it, I receive it, and I got it, and that's it. So for us, there is the idea of working out your salvation in fear and trembling. It's not something that is just a done deal. And we always have the belief that we could lose salvation.
Right.
We can lose it too. And so we it's to work out, there's the work, do something, work out your salvation in fear and trembling. But we trust in God's mercy and his grace and all the rest. So that's our confidence and our hope. But to not do nothing and just say, okay, I'm saved, that's not scripture.
It's interesting. Every biography that I've ever read or listened to, all these big successful people who've done a lot, right, is their actions, but they always say, I've not read or heard one person that was very successful that didn't include luck into their biography. So they can say luck, but something else happened there that, of course, completed their success. You can't succeed without God. We believe that too, of course. You can act as much as you want, and you should be active and everything, but only God opens the door for you.
I always say, when I hear somebody say good luck, say God bless. Oh, I don't like luck. It's not luck. And then you do rubbing whatever to get luck.
Yeah.
To get luck. Rub the rabbit's tail or something.
So in Hebrew, the word luck is makom is place, zman is time, and the lamed is lashon, is the speech. So you need three things. So even the word luck in Hebrew, the Talmud says there's no luck in Israel, just like there's no coincidence. It's the time, place, and what you said, and what happened. So the timing. So and then the next reference that you referenced before is Philip explains Isaiah to the Ethiopian eunuch, and he explains specifically this term that he was led like a sheep to the slaughter. So do you want to explain?
Well, we understand what that is. We use these verses from Isaiah like I said before, which was kind of a new insight for me, the beginning of Isaiah, like in 7, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son. So of course, that's the Annunciation. And then it goes, then there's more prophecies about he will be born. Unto us a child is born. He is God. And salvation and all that. So you just go read the Messiah, the orchestra thing. The orchestra.
Now,
But
who's
it's music.
Philip? Who's Philip?
Philip is one of the apostles.
The apostle. Okay.
The apostle. So for unto us a child is born, a son is given, and he will rule and reign forever and ever. You hear it in my head, and you know the song. See, you know the words because you know the song.
When I was preparing for reading it, I was like, why specifically he explained was led like a sheep to slaughter
That's where
to that Ethiopian.
because that's where he was reading it. He was reading it out loud, apparently, that he heard him.
Yeah.
And he says, you know what you're reading? And he said, I don't know. Somebody has explained it to me. So he said, well, let me tell you. I'll tell you the gospel, the good news, that this already has happened. And it's Jesus, and he's the Jewish Messiah. And here we go. But you got to know the background. So that's what's going on there. So there's another point to say something about.
But the Ethiopian eunuch clearly was a very wealthy person. He was in charge of the treasury.
Yeah.
And so he had his own scroll. Even having
Yeah,
your own scroll of Isaiah, you can think about. By the way, I wanted to say that right from the beginning. The scroll of Isaiah is the most complete,
It's
complete
complete.
scroll that we have from the Dead Sea Scroll. That's why when you go to the Shrine of the Book in the Israel Museum, you see, so that's where it houses all the old manuscripts, and the Dead Sea Scrolls, of course, has scrolls from all the books of the Bible, besides one. And the idea which book they did not have, they didn't find scroll for. The book of Esther.
Yes, I was gonna say yes.
Yeah, there was no and one of the opinions is because the book of Esther is the only book in the whole Bible that doesn't mention the name of God. You have to understand, like when it says the king, it's a reference to God. When it says King Ahasuerus, it means the king on earth. But there's scrolls from fragments from all the books of the Bible, but they're not complete. And some fragments repeat themselves, like the book of Deuteronomy was very popular. There are many fragments of the book of Deuteronomy because these are the lessons that Moses teaches the people, and very important. So, but the book of Isaiah is complete. So when you go into the Shrine of the Book in the Israel Museum, they wrapped this is the centerpiece, and it's wrapped all around this round wall, the whole book of
It's the
Isaiah.
center, and you walk around to see the whole thing. And it's interesting, and just thinking about it when that's what was saved, and it's the one thing we would say is the fifth gospel. It's the biggest connection to Christianity and Judaism. It's the biggest connection, and that's why we use it at all the liturgies during Advent and at Lent. So we get the whole messages during Advent, beautiful, the lion and the lamb, so lay down, and all of this good stuff. And then in Lent, we get the tough stuff, so we get a taste of it. And so then, and the book itself is going to be foretelling, we would say, the life of Christ into the death and into the resurrection, even his burial, like we just read. So Christians see in the book of Isaiah, like, wow, this is the whole story right here. So in it, I find it beautiful that that's the one text that's complete.
It's like,
And it really,
yeah.
And it's really interesting that of all the who the Essenes were, they went to, this is another inside story, but anyway, you go to Essene, you go to Qumran, and you're there. It's ancient ruins, And so what they were doing there, they were getting ready. They knew that the temple had gotten corrupt. They were moved out of town. They went downtown, out to the desert. And it's astounding to me that a lot of people, Catholic smarty pants theologians, will say, "Oh, there's no connection between John the Baptist and Jesus and the Qumran community." When you stand there and you can see both, it's like 10 miles. That's a half a day. And Jesus or John the Baptist wouldn't have like been interested, like, yo, what are you guys talking about? Like, teach me something. What are you doing here? What's this? Of course they did. They can't, you'd have to prove he didn't go. But they're looking for the registry in the office, the hotel registry that Jesus signed it. And what are you crazy? It's so close. It's so close. And then the baptismal site, again, I will give you that quick one. That's a amazing idea that the Jews, why did John the Baptist go to that spot? Because it was already holy. It wasn't any old place on the river. He went to that spot. Why that spot? Because that's where the Jews crossed over, right near Jericho.
Elijah.
They ended the Exodus. They entered the promised land. So you got a transition period, the old to the new, slavery to freedom, all this stuff going on. 700 years later, Elijah, the prophet, is running away from Jezebel because he's going to be killed. And he transfers to Elisha, the power of the prophecy, gives him his mantle, and he's taken up. So the transition from earth to heaven. Look at that.
Yeah.
Cross X marks the spot. So John the Baptist didn't go to any old place. He went to that place to do his ministry and start. And then, of course, Jesus comes there. And then the next little, it's amazing. It's 1 mile or so from the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is the lowest point on the face of the earth. All this transition stuff is at the bottom, when you're at the bottom. So God goes low to take you high.
From Egypt to receiving the Torah, from the destruction of the temple to Rosh Hashanah. Maybe that's what creation and resurrection or redemption, really.
So it's the lowest point on the face of the earth. There's 1,400 feet of water that is surrounding you, being held back by the land. So you are that far low. And again, it's water. And then if you don't do your transition stuff and your spiritual whatever journey, if you don't work your journey, cross and up and down and then around it, 1 more mile and you're in the Dead Sea. It's really a hell. It's an image of hell, like the Dead Sea. Nothing is dead. You don't get out of the Dead Sea. That's it. So it's amazing. The water comes down and it's water. The image of going through the Red Sea, the Reed Sea, the Exodus story, and then the Jordan River parts again, coming back in, and then with baptism, and right there is the spot. So it's a whole story, not just any old plot in a river. It's a deeper, so to speak, deeper story.
Okay, we're almost there. And just a couple more references in Romans, quote Isaiah regarding the belief in the gospel message.
What's this one?
Romans 10.
Quotes Isaiah regarding the belief. Yeah, well, the death and resurrection,
And then in
Romans,
Peter.
Yeah, Romans is Paul's theology, and being that he was a rabbi, Peter and Andrew are fishermen. They didn't study that much, but St. Paul is the theologian. He's a rabbi, and so he connects the dots and then makes a big deal about the sacrifice of Christ, the Lamb. He's the Lamb. He's the Lamb. He's the victim. He's the priest. He's the altar. He's all of it. It all converges on Christ, and then he says, we have salvation. He is the Messiah, and we have salvation through Christ. So we get baptized now and into his death. And the image of the crossing the river and all that. Water is life-giving and death-dealing. It's just interesting symbol. Too much, you die. Too little, you die. Something in the middle. So just to write it down.
The next one is Peter when he said, by his wounds you have been healed. So of course, it's alluding to the Jesus' suffering, sinlessness, and healing wounds. And then the last one is, well, I guess they say the same thing in Luke and Mark, the synoptic.
He
Um,
was numbered with
and
that.
he was numbered with the
Transgressors.
transgressors to his, of course, the
He was
crucifixion
judged to
between
be
the two.
a
the two-
blasphemer, that. Yeah.
So, that's really the resource and the sources, and that's around 53. And so the point is that we come from different perspective to Isaiah 53. And I was, for many years now, I wanted to delve into it more because when I when I first met Father Roy, I knew nothing about Christianity. I was very educated already in Judaism, but knew zero about Christianity, especially probably also because I was Orthodox, so we don't mix. So so I was, knew nothing, but when we started teaching, I wanted to know who I'm teaching. I wanted to know more about Christianity, and I took two courses at yeshiva, my alma mater. I took two courses with a very David Berger. He's a professor and a rabbi at Yeshiva University, and he's the authority on Jewish Christian polemics in the Middle Ages. And I wrote my paper about it, and I really delved into it, and I understood a lot more. But I remember that throughout the course, the number of references to Isaiah 53 were so many that I already knew back then. There's something about Isaiah 53 that when the polemics happened, they referred to that almost as the stomping stone. It's like this is where it's happening. This is where the conversation starts. So in general, it's two different perspectives. Some of it are shared perspectives, but if we want to end with the message of we do share a common message here, it's really about suffering, humility, and ultimate resurrection that we both believe in. That's also the cornerstone of the Jewish faith, that the ultimate resurrection, that God can bring back life from the dead. Life, he can bring water from the rock. He can bring what we see as no hope. He has the way to bring us back. And I think that's really the message of Isaiah 53. And that's why it's been such a strong place of both faith. So yeah, we agreed on that.
Since the Jews don't believe that Christ was the promised Messiah, are they still waiting for the Messiah? And if he isn't primarily going to be a vicarious redeemer, is he just going to be like a warrior king that brings peace and restores Israel?
So good question. I was going to say, now we'll open it to questions. So yes, Judaism still awaits its Messiah. Our Messiah is a human being that is may not be a warrior necessarily of he's going to be a warrior, but not necessarily with armies. It's really, he would be judged more on the outcome rather than the process. So the outcome would be that he would bring all Israel into one place, the returning of the diaspora. That's why some people say maybe David Ben Gurion, the first prime minister of Israel, maybe he was, he was it. But maybe not. But he really was responsible for bringing most of the Jews back to the land, and create peace in the world, and that he would be respected by the whole world. So, Netanyahu has part of it, but not, he's not respected by the whole world. So, maybe not.
One thing that is interesting to take note of is that since the fall of the first temple, 587 BC, since then, most Jews have lived elsewhere. And about a year or two, I think they said ago, they noticed that now this means Jews, just doesn't mean religious, secular, just Jewish heritage, whatever. So the number of Jews in Israel now is bigger than outside. So it's the first time in 2,500 years. That's amazing when you think
So
of
we're very close.
biblical history.
Actually, this year, I'm going to tell you in case you haven't heard it in other contexts that I said, but last Rosh Hashanah, since we're approaching the next Rosh Hashanah, the each year in the Jewish calendar has a name too, a word.
Yes.
It doesn't always spell out a name because the letters in Hebrew have numerical values. So the numerical value spell out letters. They don't always spell out a word, but this year it does. And not only does it spell a year, no, the year that we're in, that started last September, that will end next September. So first of all, the number, we count towards 6,000. So we count towards something. We don't just count, from some point
Jesus.
to indefinite. We count to 6,000. We commit that by 6,000, our Messiah will come back, will come or come back. We'll see. We'll have to ask them. Have you been here before? That's how we'll know. If, but this year, anybody knows what the year is this year?
5786.
Okay, you read.
I have it on my calendar.
So so we count towards 6,000, and the reason we count towards 6,000 is very important because Adam and Eve sinned on Friday. They were created on Friday and they sinned on Friday, so they didn't enter the ultimate Shabbat. There was a Shabbat, but it ended, and right after Shabbat they were removed from the Garden of Eden. So the ultimate Shabbat is 1,000 years of peace, because in Proverbs it says every year, every one day in God's world is like 1,000 years in human time, which means that week that God created the world, the 7 days, when he removed Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden, he's still, again, it's not a punishment, but it's to tell them now, okay, you have to now work your way back to the Garden of Eden, to the gate of heaven again, right? And that's the week. He's giving us a week in his time. So it's 6,000 years
Right. So 6 days.
to do this whole process again, right? So we are now at 5,786. So how many years do we have left? Quick. 200 and? You're close. 14. 214. Okay, good thing you're sitting. It's not necessarily totally related to what we were talking about, but it's something that's related to Messianic times and final redemption. But so when you divide 6,000, right, the time that to 28, why 28? Because when King Solomon says in Ecclesiastes, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to uproot, right? And the last it's couplets, right? The last two is who? Can you tell me what
War and
the
peace.
To be born at times.
Time to die. No, war and peace, right?
time for war and time for peace? Okay. So our rabbis tell us that these are the 28 periods of the history. of the 6,000. So we're entering, so when you divide 6,000 to 28, quick calculation, you don't really need to calculate, you just have to remember clearly we're talking about something. So how much would that be?
214.
14.
214.
So we're transitioning to
Do you
the last
understand?
era.
Like we're at the point of transition from war to peace. And peace comes through war. That's also another message that you can't just you have to decide to decide. You have to, there's a battle.
So when is the 214 up?
This is it.
This is
We're in the
beginning.
year. No, we're starting the 214, meaning the last period that King Solomon was talking about. A time for war, time for peace.
We're entering
So-
the time for.
So, okay, so you're still sitting, so I'll add another thing. So this is really, this is not, it really is incredible. Again, I'm not, this is what I'm saying, like coincidence? Okay, coincidence. But it's all coming to one spot. The word that this year spells is
Present year.
the
not
present
next year.
year that we're in is tashaf teshafu. Okay, don't have to know Hebrew, just believe me. But it's the word tashaf appeared, the first one, in 2020, but it was in the singular form. Tashaf is singular, teshafu is with another vav, another 6 in Hebrew, which is this year, is in plural. Okay? But the word tashaf appears once in the Bible. It's one word that appears once. It appears twice, but in the same context. And that word is, and think of the context of moving from the ultimate war into the ultimate peace, right? Time of war and time of peace. What would you need to do in order to move into the final peace? What needs to happen? What in that war, what needs to happen so we can finally move into a time of peace in the world? Like world peace.
You need to win.
To win against who?
The enemy one.
Who's the enemy?
Devil.
The devil, the serpent, right? In the Garden of Eden. That's the beginning, right, of the good and evil. That's the tree of knowledge, right? The word tashaf is the word that when God tells them about their punishment, so to speak, or the consequence of what will happen, and he speaks to the serpent, he says, I'll put enmity between you and the woman's seed, right? They will smite your head and you will bite their heel. In Hebrew, the word to smite the head of the serpent and the word that he would bite the heel of man is the same word. And guess what that word is? Tashaf.
Wow.
It's in singular, right? But this year, it's in plural, which means to really win, to really do that, to smite the head of the serpent, is we have to do it together. It's not a singular act. And what's happening now with Iran, with all these forces of evil, that is literally, we call it the head of the serpent. This is the war of these two sides, of sides that want to be oppressive, that believe in the pyramid, the Egyptian pyramid. I'm going to sit at the top and everybody's going to be my servant, my slave, or the flipped pyramid that we live, the Judeo-Christian values of we the people. America grew out of the Judeo-Christian idea of taking care of the poor, not enslaving the poor. So this is the war. It's the war between the dictatorial countries and countries that believe in democracy. I mean, it's not perfect. The democracies are not perfect, and the dictatorship is not always, 100%. But the ideas are there. There are people who really, really, really believe that they should be enslaving other people. It's hard for us to believe that because we live in a free society. But my parents came from Yemen, just one generation, and they lived for hundreds of years under Islamic rule of being second class citizen, dhimmi, and had to pay taxes to live. So we're not that far off.
No.
So definitely there are people who believe that they are above you and they should exploit, and that we are heathens and they need to be either kill us or enslave us, or really, and that there are people who don't get that there are people who really, this is what they stand for. Believe them when they say that we're the big devil, small devil, doesn't matter, but they believe in that. We need to believe them that they believe it. So this is a moment that we live in, this history, that the biggest empire, so to speak, or the United States is cooperating with the little Israel. But it's the same value. It came from the same place. And we're at that time. And if it happens, this could be the time. So again, I just laid out the elements here. You do whatever you
Sure.
want with it, but we're in a very historic time for sure.
One other thing that connects to that whole thing I've been talking about, one of the first things that was really a jaw-dropping insight that we got. So we were preparing Project Genesis for the fall of Adam and Eve, and we're in the discussion. He says, it happened on a Friday.
Yeah.
What, the fall? No, they were born on a Friday. They created on a Friday. How do you know that? Well, the sixth day. They created on the sixth day. Okay, but that's not when they fell. And he said, no, it was like at a big day, eternal day, God day. And I said, so what do you mean? So you're telling me that the fall happened on a Friday? He says, yeah. I said, Friday? He said, yeah, like mid-afternoon. Mid-afternoon on a Friday? And he goes, yeah. Mid-afternoon on a Friday, I mean, the Jews believed. And he goes, what's wrong with you, sir? What? And I said, Jesus died at 3:00. Jesus died on a Friday. And he said, how do you know? I said, it's been clear in our text. That's why he didn't know much of Christianity. So look at this, the fall and the redemption, mid-afternoon. So I said, how do you see that? How do you see, where is in the text the time? And it says, God came down at the breezy time of the day. The breezy time of the day means 4:00. It's an idiom in Hebrew. It means 4:00. I'll meet you at the breezy time of the day means 4:00. So if they're in the bushes at 4:00, the sin preceded. So some mid-afternoon on a Friday. So look at this, the fall and the redemption are symbolically linked in the scriptures once you know what you're looking for. Now, listen to this. Peter, Andrew, James, and John were at the baptismal site when Jesus was baptized. When he came traipsing along up at the lake and said, come and follow me, I was always annoyed by that reading. It took me 19 years to figure out if I'm going to be a priest. And these guys
Don't have all that time.
Jesus comes traipsing along and they throw down the nets and follow him. They had already met him.
Yes.
Where? At the baptismal site.
Right.
Now, listen to that. Now, the priest made me do this on my last retreat and meditate on John 1. And John 1? Oh, I like the prologue. In the beginning was the word. And I like, really? Peter, Andrew, James, and John were at the baptismal site? And John says to them, John the Baptist says, there's the Lamb of God. So then they follow Jesus, and Jesus turns around. What are you looking for? And he says, come and see. Then John adds the details. It was 4:00.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
the conversation starts again. God wanted to come at the breezy time of the day to talk to Adam and Eve. Where are they? They're in the bushes. You think God didn't know they were in the bushes? Of course they're in the bushes. Where are you?
Right.
He didn't want to know. He didn't know where they are, like God was confused or lost. He knew they were in the bushes. He wanted them to know they're in the bushes. And what they should have said is, here I am.
Yeah. Yes.
They should have said, here I am. But right away, they did the blame game.
Yeah. Yes.
They did the blame game. But now Jesus comes at 4 o'clock, and probably on a Friday,
Yeah.
because they seem to be looking for a place to be for Shabbat.
So nice.
Because it says they stayed the night with him. They stayed the next day.